This is your user. And this is your user. And whether you plan for it or not, this is also your user.
I was asked to gather the information, interpret the options, fill the forms, submit the data, and report back with confidence.
We keep hearing that AI agents are going to change software, and yeah, that's probably true. Agentic AI is already doing a whole lot more on the internet for people. Users don't go look up results and visit the site anymore. They ask an AI agent to do it. And it's doing it very enthusiastically. We have a whole lot of guidance out there on how to make our software cater to AI agent, but a lot of people are jumping to a very narrow conclusion from that. They hear software for agents and immediately think APIs, tool calls, structured outputs, MCP servers. And yes, those things matter, but that is not the whole story. Agents don't just interact with the clean technical interfaces, they also interact with the messy product reality. Now, I want to be careful here because I don't mean that AI agents and humans are basically the same thing. They're not. Humans are actually pretty good at surviving bad systems. We're much better at recognizing context. We're better at recognizing when we fall into a logical loop and how to get out of it. We guess, we click around, we learn through tribal knowledge and cultural knowledge. We memorize that this button is misleading, or this field doesn't mean exactly what it says, or this flow only works if you do some related things first. We patch around bad clarity with social knowledge and experience. Agents are much less forgiving. And while that's a problem for working with agents, it can be useful when thinking about our software. Building for AI agents is not just about exposing machine-readable interfaces. It's also about making systems clearer, more structured, and less ambiguous. And that's just good UX. You know, the type of UX we also want to build for humans.
Okay, I have a great contribution idea. Cool, so I just need to read package.json and the entire repo.
Ooh, I have an extensive expectation document explaining the architecture, rules, workflows, constraints, and how not to overdo things. How convenient!
It took me an hour to wrap my head around this.
I was handed a survival guide.
Wait, what? Was I always there?
You know how there's a agent.md file everywhere now, or Claude.md or architecture.md? These started popping up to define the best rule set and guidance for agentic AI coming into a repo. And it usually helps guide the AI through expectations in that repo, so even if a random contributors come in, they at least get a sense of the general boundaries. So why does something like agent.md file help so much? It's not because it introduces some magical new capability. It helps because it makes expectations explicit. It basically says, here's how this repo is organized. Here's the architecture expected. That helps agents because agents struggle with ambiguity and hidden assumptions. But humans do too. Open source repos use developers.md or contributors.md to do something very similar for humans. It usually explains the constraints, the expectations, how to install locally and test, and what the expectations are from a PR. That is useful for open source repos because they do tend to get random external developers trying to contribute, and it's good to get them into the context. But these things tend to be useful for any software projects. For personal projects that you didn't look at for 5 years and completely forgot your own thought process. Or for work projects where engineers and teams may change and rotate. Those explanations are useful, and I think that's the really important and fascinating part. A lot of what helps the agent is not AI-specific magic. It's explicitness, structure, clarity, reduced ambiguity, and those are not just agent needs. Those are good engineering and good UX practices in general. Even if you don't want an AI to contribute to your repo, having a document setting up the expectations and architecture of your project is not a bad idea. And this is where the point gets bigger than repo docs, because the same pattern shows up in products. Consistent UI labels help agents. They also help humans. Clearer navigation helps agents. It also helps humans. Explicit error messages help agents. They also help humans. Predictable flows help agents. They also help humans. Fewer hidden assumptions help agents. and humans. So I think there's a broader product lesson here. If making something clearer helps an agent use it, there's a very good chance it can also help humans. Take a workflow inside a product. Maybe there are 3 buttons with vague names. Maybe the error messages tell you nothing. Maybe the next step depends on a business rule nobody bothered to state clearly. A human user might eventually figure out through persistence, training, or frustration. An AI agent might fail much faster. But that failure is signal. It's the canary in the UX mine. Because maybe the real problem is not that the agent is too dumb. Maybe the real problem is that the workflow depends on invisible context. And invisible context is one of the classic ways we make software harder to use than we realize. And that's why I think it's not just an infrastructure conversation. This is a UX conversation, a product design conversation, an information architecture conversation, an expectation setting conversation. Building for agents can become a very effective stress test for clarity. It forces us to ask, are our workflows understandable? Are our labels meaningful? Are the docs current? Are the systems internally consistent? Or are they only usable by people who already know the secret rules? And honestly, those are good questions whether or not AI agents ever touched your product.
Great news! We are now fully optimized for the age of agentic software. I have located the controls. Great. What do they say? They do not say.
So yes, build the APIs, build the MCP servers, use structured tools, make machine-readable systems. But don't stop there. Because if an agent can only use your software once you make it clearer, more explicit, and less ambiguous, you may have just improved it for humans too. And I think that is the part worth paying attention to. Because usable by agents and well-communicated system are not the same thing, but they do overlap a lot more than people think. And that overlap is where a lot of good products live.
One is a star, one is a lightning bolt, one is 3 horizontal dots, one is a smiling face wearing sunglasses.
What do you mean?
Would you like me to favorite, energize, expand, or become chill?
So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Have you seen AI agents expose usability problems in products or code bases? Have you had any experience where the thing that helped the AI also obviously would have helped people? And what kinds of agent-friendly design do you think are genuinely new versus just overdue clarity? Love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, and I'll see you next time.